And all right, so once you found yourself in a comfortable seat, as with most of my classes, we will maybe have a special guest for the first few minutes of Tales. So if you have pets or people or other animals joining you, welcome them. But go ahead and just, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes, notice where you are, adjust anything underneath you, around you, and just get comfortable in a seat. And as you're beginning to close your eyes, over the next 3 breaths, I want you to imagine if you can inhale and breathe all the way down to the ground. So take a deep inhale in through your nose, imagining that your breath can go all the way down, whether it be the back side of your spine or the front side of your body, into the ground underneath you. And then as you exhale, maybe sit a little bit taller, imagining that there's a string on top of your head, kind of like a balloon above you, raising you up, but not pulling on you, just keeping you held. And breathe 3 times with that kind of visualization, breathing down, grounding into your mat, and exhaling, drawing a line up to a support above you. And once you've done that a couple times, go ahead and just drop your right ear over towards your right shoulder, keeping your eyes closed if that's comfortable for you. And just see this time if you can breathe, imagining that you're drawing out any tension in your shoulder, just scraping it down the left side of your neck. So with your right ear drops towards your right shoulder, the left side of your neck is getting a stretch or at least some awareness. Maybe after 3 breaths, you want to look up towards the ceiling or down towards your shoulder. Just feeling into your neck, your shoulder, noticing it. And once you feel finished and complete on that side, go ahead and just drop your chin to your chest and just look down towards the ground or towards your navel and just feel into the back side of your neck and the tops of your shoulders. Breathing 5 breaths, your chin tucked, your eyes closed, noticing the back side of your neck and any tension that feels held there. And then once you've done 5 breaths on this side, go ahead and continue tracing your chin a little bit and drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And coming back to scraping with your breath off any tension on your right shoulder, the right side of your neck. If you'd like to intensify this, you can take your hands, if they're on your knees, out to the sides and straighten your arms out and let your fingertips graze the ground. And that can sometimes make more of a stretch on the sides of your neck. If that doesn't work for you, don't do it. And this class tonight is really focused on making sure that you're doing what feels good and feels restful for you. As always with Yin, we're not necessarily getting to a restorative place, but if that's what you need, take that. This is your time. And once you finish with your breaths, with your head tilted to your left shoulder, go ahead and bring your head back up to neutral, keeping your eyes closed. And just with your eyes closed, look up towards the ceiling and feel the front side of your neck. Feel what it feels like to look up. Many of us maybe are looking down throughout our day, or at least looking straight either at screens or other people or things that we have responsibilities for. And it's not often we can just drop our head back and look up. And take 2 more breaths there, and then come back to neutral when you're ready. And once we're back to neutral, we're just going to do a brief spinal twist before we move into our first few poses. So from the seated position, go ahead and inhale and stretch your arms out to your sides. And then as we exhale, we're going to twist to the right and put our left hand and our right knee and our right arm behind us. And just look over your right shoulder as much as feels good for you. Maybe you want to press your right fingertips into the ground and lift up a little bit more. Maybe you want to pull a little bit on that knee, just make the twist a little bit more intense, or maybe you just want to hang out. But take 3 breaths here, just feeling your spine, noticing your body. After that 3rd breath, take an inhale, lift your arms back up, exhale back to center. Take another inhale, and then exhale, twist to the left. Put your right hand on your left knee, left hand behind you. Take 5 breaths here. And after you've sufficiently stretched out or twisted both ways, on an inhale, just lift your arms back up and come back to neutral. With your arms out to your side. Just with an inhale breath, just lift your arms up towards the ceiling, looking up again at your fingertips, imagining that you can reach the ceiling with your hands, feeling how long your spine can feel while sitting. Then just bring your palms to touch overhead and draw them down the midline to your center, to your collarbone. And with your eyes closed here in just this moment before we start our first pose, just tell yourself thank you for making time for yourself. And think about what it is that made you want to come tonight and take this time. And also think about one thing that you love about yourself. Maybe you can think of a lot of things. Maybe it's hard to think of one thing, but just find one thing that you really love about yourself. And as we move into our poses tonight, just come back to this and noticing this piece about you. So once you have that, let's take one more breath. And on an exhale, just drop your hands to your knees. And the first pose that we're going to move into is going to be a butterfly forward fold. And so wherever you are seated, if your legs are crossed, go ahead and just uncross them and bring the soles of your feet together in front of you. They can be as close or as far from your body as you'd like them to be. And if you would like to have any props as we will be folding forward in this, go ahead and maybe have a bolster in front of you if you'd like that. But before we fold forward, we're just going to give ourselves a bit of a foot massage. So don't put anything on top of your feet just yet. But we're just going to kind of just begin to grab our feet with our thumbs on the bottom of our feet and the rest of our fingers on top, and just begin to just massage into the bottom of our feet. Maybe this isn't something you're interested in, but maybe this is something that you've really loved receiving from someone else, but never really tried to give to yourself. I love foot massages, and I'd never until recently tried to give myself one. And so it's really, if you are a person who loves foot massages, think about the ways in which other people have offered you that and try and offer yourself that right now. And as you're maybe not needing as much on the bottoms of your feet, go ahead and switch where you're kind of placing one hand on each, or one hand on one foot at a time, and just massage the places between your toes, kind of on the tops of your feet. Maybe you want to put your fingertips on the top of your feet and kind of trace them out towards your toes. I've been in a class before where a teacher calls this cleaning out the gutters. but just really feel into any tension that's in your feet and notice it. And then move into your ankles, just kind of gently rubbing circles around your ankles, thinking of if you've received a massage before, what that felt like, and trying to offer that to yourself. One of the pieces of yoga is that we get to be with our own bodies and our own selves, and we can offer ourselves a place to take rest when we don't know if that's something we can access outside of the mat. And so once you feel like you've done what you wanted to do with your feet, go ahead and just, if you have a prop in front of you, place that where you'd like it to be. That's on your feet or it's out in front of you, whatever works for you. And then just stretch your arms out in front of you on an inhale, and on an exhale, begin to just fold forward with your arms straight out until you feel like you've folded forward as much as you'd like to be. And then just place those on the ground, fingertips first. Tiptoe them a little farther out in front of you if you'd like. And then just drop your head whenever you feel like you've reached about your limit. In Yin, we never want to go past our limit, but if we think of our limit as a 10, we want to get to about a 6 if we're looking for that deep stretch. Again, if you'd like a restorative, go back to about a 4. And then once you've reached that, just go ahead and drop your head. Maybe it comes down onto a prop, or maybe it just hangs there. But just find where you can be for about 3 minutes, feeling into your hips, feeling into the back side of your body, and just letting yourself release with every exhale. So as we start to get into this pose, if you would like to release a little bit more but are struggling with that, I encourage you to imagine breathing in to a count of 4 or 5, and then exhaling to a count of 6 or 7. And do that for a couple times. Settle in and just be here. Just take 5 more deep breaths here together. Inhaling and exhale. See if you can release something in your body that's holding on. Maybe that's some tension in your hips. Maybe you've been holding your head up, but you'd like to release it and just let it hang. On your final breath, go ahead and just press your hands into the mat or the ground in front of you. Just begin to walk your hands back towards your body, coming back up as slowly as you can. Maybe coming back to that foot massage really briefly, and then rolling all the way up with an upright spine. And the next pose we'll be moving into is caterpillar pose. And so before we do that, or as we're doing that, go ahead and just come to a place where you can have your legs straight out in front of you. And you might want to use your bolster for this as well in one of two different ways. The first way that I recently tried Caterpillar was putting the bolster underneath my calves and then folding forward over that. And so that's the way I'll be modeling. But the other option that has worked well for Caterpillar is keeping your feet and your legs together and placing the bolster on top of your legs and folding forward over that. And so whatever you would like to try first, go ahead and place that bolster where you'd like it to be. And then just place your hands just behind you. Press a little bit into your mat for just a moment. And again, let's look up towards the ceiling, feeling our full spine. And then lifting our hands up towards the sky. Just allowing your hands and your spine to arch and fall forward over your feet. If you have the bolster on top of your legs, over your bolster. If it's underneath your legs, maybe you want to shift a little bit forward and have it more under your knees. But just allow yourself to drape forward in this caterpillar pose. Maybe feeling into your lower spine again, your lower back. And again, decide if you'd like to hold your head up or drop it down. But just focus on that deep breath. Maybe coming back to a visualization of breathing all the way down your spine. Maybe this time you want to try and breathe all the way down to your toes. And then as you exhale, just let something go and just relax and release. And let the pose do what it will do to let you just take a break. I often find that in restorative poses, my body gets a break and my mind. But in yin poses, it sometimes feels like only my body gets a break. Because for me, as I get into deeper poses, it brings up the areas of tension in my body. And so if you're noticing that the tension is bringing up the emotions for you, I encourage you to just notice that and let that be for now. Maybe you want to journal about that later. Maybe you don't. But if you notice emotional tension rising, just let it be. It was there before, so you can deal with it after class if you need to. Or maybe you want to release that. And if you notice over the next few days that anything that was stirred up here still feels stirred up, I encourage you to just sit with that. Ask yourself what you need. Ask yourself where you can release things that you're holding on to, physically or emotionally. And go ahead and take 3 more breaths, letting something release, letting yourself sink a little bit more. And on that 3rd breath, go ahead and just place your hands down either on the prop or next to your feet and begin like we did in the forward fold with butterfly legs. So just inch yourself back up, slowly returning to an upright spine. And then from here, going to shift into more of an open-hearted pose. We're going to do saddle pose. And so if you know that your knees are not a fan of saddle pose and you know that you'll need to do something different, we will have the option to do one leg at a time. Or if you would just like to lie back into Shavasana for the next few minutes, that's okay as well. But to do saddle pose, I'll cue us through 2 legs bent first. So go ahead and come If your legs were out in front of you, go ahead and come to sitting on your feet with your knees bent, and sit your seat between your heels so that your knees are bent underneath you and you're sitting down on your mat, or if you have a blanket under you on that. If you know that you would like a block under you, that's an option. And from here, with your heels on each side of your seat, go ahead and just place your hands behind you, palms down on the ground. And then slowly, so that you can notice if you need to make any adjustments, go ahead and walk your hands backwards so that you are kind of draping yourself backwards, where you eventually, if you wanted to, would come all the way down onto your back. Maybe you want to come down onto forearms. Maybe you want to place something underneath you to catch your head or to catch your upper back. But go ahead and just let yourself come all the way back to saddle pose on both legs. If you would like to have one leg straight out in front of you and one leg bent, I'll let you know when we're halfway through so that you can slowly come up and trade. But here in this pose, I want you to just notice what it feels like as you exhale to try and let your body sink into the ground underneath you. Where can you release any tension in your hips, any tension in your chest? Maybe you want to have your hands on your belly, and as you breathe in, notice how it rises and falls. Maybe you want more of a chest opener, so you place your arms directly out to the side or up over your head. The goal of this pose is to just feel like we're releasing and just feeling very open-hearted. Coming back to what it is that you love about yourself. Maybe you want to add something to that list. Maybe there's something someone else has told you that they love about you, but you aren't really sure how you feel about that. Just think about what can be on this list of things that are great about you. And if you've chosen to have one leg out in front of you and you'd like to switch to the other one, go ahead and press your forearms into the ground and inch yourself back up so that you can switch out which leg is in front and which leg is bent. If you are comfortable where you are, because you have both knees bent, stay there. Got about a minute and a half left on this side. And wherever you are, come back to your breath and take 3 more intentional breaths in this open face pose. Letting yourself release, letting yourself be here. And after your third breath, go ahead and just come back to your forearms, still lying back. Press into your elbows so that you can come up onto the palms of your hands, and then slowly rise yourself back up, being really mindful of your hips and your knees. And we're going to come all the way down to lying on our backs. So once you have come back up, go ahead and slowly just ease yourself out to bring your legs back out in front of you, unbending one leg at a time. Maybe you want to bounce your legs up and down to get the blood flow going back all the way down your legs. Maybe you want to just like shake your calves or your hamstrings or your quads, just really shake the muscles and feel them. And then go ahead and lie down on your back. And bend your knees and place your feet on the floor so that your knees are pointed up to the ceiling. And just curl your knees into your chest and grab onto them. Give yourself a hug. See if you can squeeze your knees in as much as you can, really hugging them in, maybe rocking side to side a little bit, feeling what it feels like to just fully hold and embrace yourself while lying down. And close your eyes. Just squeeze your knees in really, really tight. And on an exhale, just let them go. Come back to placing your feet on the ground. And then we're going to have a couple options for this supine twist. I like to do it in eagle legs, and so I'll guide us through that. But if you don't want to do that, you can also just drop your knees to one side and then the other. And so to do this with eagle legs, what you'll do is we'll start with inhaling and lifting our right leg up and crossing it over our left. And then just drop both knees over to the left side of your mat, keeping both shoulders on the ground and your chest pointed up towards the ceiling. And with your arms, you can place your right hand on your knee if you want, and your left hand on your knee, your right arm out to the side. You might want to put it up by your ear, stretching up, or you might want to just rest it somewhere on your body, whatever feels good for you. And just adjust yourself so that you can be in this twist of kind of wringing out your spine. If you'd like to bend your left leg a little bit more and grab onto that foot with your right hand, you're welcome to do that. Just get yourself in a position where you feel open and stretched, while also just letting anything go, deep twisting it out. If you've lost your breath, come back to it. Maybe try and counting the inhales and the exhales, making the exhales a couple seconds longer than the inhales. Take our final 3 breaths on this side. After that third exhale, on the next inhale, begin to, if you have your legs crossed, just uncross them and then slowly rise your knees back up to the center. You bring your right leg up and then the left follows it. Shifted your hips to one side. Go ahead and bring them back to the center. And then it's your choice. You can either wrap your knees back into your chest and give yourself another hug, or if you'd like to spread your feet to about mat width distance and let your knees fall to the center, or windshield wiper them. Do whatever you need for a couple breaths to just reset before we move to the other side. And then coming into this on the other side, plant your feet back on the mat. This time we'll lift up our left leg, crossing it over our right. If you'd like the eagle twist with your legs. And then maybe you want to shift your hips a little bit to the left so that you can drop them to the right side of your mat if you have props or things around you. And trying to keep both shoulders on the ground and your chest pointed up to the ceiling. And maybe you need to do something different on this side. Maybe you need to bring your knees closer to you or farther away. Maybe you need a prop under your knees because if your body is anything like mine today, one side feels very different than the other. And it's always a good reminder that things can look the same and feel completely different from each other. So do what you need to feel this stretch in your back, to feel this wringing out of your spine. Maybe wondering to yourself what it is that you did that allowed one side to hold more tension than the other. Maybe it's not anything you did, it's just how the day went. But if you can think of something you did that maybe you want to adjust tomorrow so that you can feel a little bit more balanced, maybe you do that. But wherever you are, come back to your breath, inhaling, and seeing if as you exhale, you can twist a little bit more, if that's what your body needs. Just release into this for the next few minutes. Coming back to your breath and taking 3 more long, deep, intentional breaths in this twist. Maybe you want to try looking to one side or the other, noticing how your neck feels just over halfway through our time together. And after that third breath, go ahead and unwind your legs if you had them crossed, and then slowly lift each one back up to the center. Shifting your hips back to the middle, curling your knees into your chest or doing those windshield wipers, whatever you need to reset your body from that pose. And then wherever you are, we're going to move onto our stomachs. And so if you'd like to just roll yourself and flip over so that you are just face down right where you were, go ahead and do that. If you'd like to come up to a seat and flip yourself over, that's fine too. But once we are flat on our stomachs, we're just going to move into Sphinx pose. And so go ahead and bring your forearms down to the mat. Lift your chest up off the mat. And make your forearms about shoulder width apart so that when you bend your elbows, you can grab opposite. You can grab each elbow with the opposite hand. And then straighten them back out. Plant your forearms down, palms down. And come back to that idea of taking an inhale and just looking up towards the ceiling. Maybe you lift up each leg and stretch them out of the socket a little bit, imagining that there's strings on your feet, pulling them back. So you can create some length in your hips and your lower back and your neck. And then from here, if you like Sphinx pose looking up, you are more than welcome to stay with that. But I want to invite you to just drop your head between your shoulders and just let it hang in kind of a hammock between your shoulders. And just let yourself rest and release your head and your neck between your shoulder blades, letting your heart drop down towards the mat. And just letting yourself be held by your own body and your own breath for a couple minutes in this pose. Sphinx pose is often a transition pose, but I have found a lot of emotional release through just letting my heart be held in this way. So just let yourself be here. Sometimes I do like to grab onto those opposite elbows with my hands, but you can also keep your forearms down, hands face down. And just release the back of your neck. Let anything that you're holding on to in your mind, just imagine that it's pouring out the top of your head onto your mat, just flowing away. And take 3 more breaths in this Sphinx pose. If you've held your head up, I encourage you to try just dropping it down and letting it be held. Maybe closing your eyes if you had them open. Coming back again to what we thought of at the beginning of class, where you thought of something you loved about yourself, maybe something else that you love or someone else loves about you. And just add a third thing to that list. What is something that you love about yourself? Or something that you know someone special in your life loves about you? Whether that be a partner, a friend, family member, coworker that really makes you feel like you can change the world. Something that is great about you. 3 things. And after your next breath, go ahead and lift your head back up, plant your hands And we're going to move into downward dog as a transition to pigeon pose. If you are not interested in a downward dog tonight, just come, well, or either way, come to tabletop. So planting your knees underneath your hips, your hands underneath your shoulders, pressing up into that. And if you don't want to join us in downward dog, stay in tabletop and I'll cue us into pigeon from there. But if you do, go ahead and tuck your toes underneath you and underneath your feet. Lift your hips up into the sky. Press your heels down towards your mat, lifting your hips up really high, pedaling out your dog for just a moment. Maybe this is the first time you've been in an inversion all day or all week. Just notice what it feels like to be in an opposite position. Taking 2 breaths here. And then we'll start with our right side. So plant your left foot, lift your right leg up into 3-legged dog, and then bring your knee in towards your nose and towards your right hand. Drop it down to the mat, inch your left foot back in space. If you're in tabletop, go ahead and just lift your right knee up and bring it towards your right wrist, dropping it down. If you need or want any props in pigeon, go ahead and place something under your left hip or your right hip. And then if you'd like to take this in a more restorative way, you can just bring a prop, maybe a bolster out in front of you, and just place your hands on each side of that bolster, walk them forward like we've done in forward folds, and just drape your chest over this if you'd like. If you don't want a prop and you want to just drape your chest over the floor, do that as well. But just see where else you can release in your hips, in your head, in your back. And just feel into the compression and the stretch in this pose. Pigeon pose is one of the most emotional poses for me. Maybe that's true for you, just because I keep a lot of tension in my hips. So just see if on your exhales, if you can notice if you have tension and release it on the next exhale. Wherever you are, make these last 3 breaths in the side of pigeon intentional, releasing, relaxing. And then go ahead and plant your hands back on the mat, pressing into them, slowly walking them back towards your body. Then if you'd like to come back through downward dog, tuck your left toe, be gentle and lift up your right leg, bringing it back up to 3-legged dog, planting it back down next to the left, shaking out the hips, walking out the dog any way that you need to, or in tabletop, swaying your hips any way that you need to. And we'll move right to the other side. So if you're in downward dog, lift up your left leg to the sky. And then on an exhale, bring it forward, bringing your knee to your wrist, dropping your right knee and inching your foot back in space, keeping that toe tucked or untucking it, whichever works for you. And if you liked having that prop out in front of you, bring your bolster back in front of you, maybe this time on the right side of your mat. And just drape yourself down, inching your hands forward, letting your chest fall onto the prop or the mat. And this time, maybe if you're using a bolster, you want to wrap your arms around that bolster and give it a hug and hold on to it and just let it support you. Wherever you are, just sink in, release, and just let go. Got about 10 minutes left together. Just soak in this time that you took for yourself. And just be here. Coming back to your breath for your final 3 breaths in this side of pigeon pose. The next pose that we'll be moving to is child's pose, which you can choose to have as your savasana, or I'll guide us through that into a shavasana. Go ahead and plant your hands back on your mat on either side of the prop if you have one in front of you. And this time we'll just tuck our right toes and come back to a tabletop position. So lifting up our left leg, coming back to tabletop. And then deciding if you'd like to do child's pose with a bolster or a prop or not. If you would, go ahead and just bring that bolster to the center of your mat, placing your hands on each side of it, bringing your big toes together, knees wide, inching that bolster between your legs if that's what you'd like to do. And then just easing your hips back towards your heels, bringing your arms out in front of you, taking an inhale, and then exhale, just letting yourself fall and collapse into this child's pose. And make this more of a restorative child's pose if you need that tonight, because this is our final pose before Shavasana. And as your forehead is resting on the mat, just let anything go out of that space. Sometimes just bringing a sense of sensation or pressure to the center of our forehead between our eyebrows can allow us to just let go of any emotions we're holding on to, whether they be challenging ones, such as sadness or anger or frustration that's kind of burrowed in our face, or whether they be ones that are easier to feel but more intense. Just let the emotions and the tension in your body just release and rest and flow through you as you breathe in and out. Coming back to being grateful to yourself for making this time, Being grateful to your body for being able to be with you, for your breath, for guiding you, and for the ground that's holding you up and supporting you. Don't hold on to anything. Just let the ground and the props hold you right now. And wherever you are, decide if you would like to stay in child's pose for a 5-minute Shavasana. It's about 6:58, so we'll go over about 3 minutes to do that 5-minute Shavasana. Or if you'd like to move into a traditional Shavasana lying on your back, go ahead and guide yourself up and come to that position on your back. But if you'd like to be in this face down child's pose for Shavasana, that could be a great option for tonight. Just let yourself fully release, rest, and turn off. But if you'd like to be in a traditional one, go ahead and lie on your back, coming up, bringing your legs out from under you, flipping around, and just lying back on your back. Wherever you are, just take a big inhale, and on the exhale, just do an open mouth sigh 3 times to just let yourself fully be here. Coming back to why you came here. Noticing how your body feels now versus how it felt about an hour ago. If you're lying on your back, maybe you want to breathe, inhaling all the way down to your toes, and exhaling, sighing, and letting your back sink into the ground. If you're in child's pose, maybe you want to inhale down the back side of your body to your lower back, and exhale, let your chest sink closer to the ground. Whatever you need, do that. One of my favorite quotes of movies that came out last year is from Frozen 2. And it can feel really simplistic, as Disney movies can often feel, but I think it's also pretty profound for thinking about moving forward in 2021, moving forward and loving ourselves, and moving forward and just making it through life. And it says, just do the next right thing, take a step, step again. It's all that I can do, the next right thing. And in each moment, if we don't know what the next right thing is, we can take an inhale and take an exhale and repeat that until we figure it out. And sometimes that's all we can do. And so wherever you are, take a couple more breaths. And when you feel ready, go ahead and roll over to one side, resting in the fetal position for a breath or two. And then make your way up to a comfortable seat if you'd like to join me for a final breath. If you are comfortable where you are, stay there. And once you find yourself in a seat, go ahead and bring your hands to your heart center. You can keep your eyes closed if you'd like. And take a moment again, come back to yourself. Remember that you can always do this. You can always take a breath. You can always spend time with yourself and your body, even if just for a few moments. We'll just take an inhale together, bringing in any peace that we found tonight. And exhale, just letting any tension go, letting our shoulders drop. Thanks for joining me. Hope that you have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week, that all your technology functions well. So